Welcome everybody to another edition of Dinner Demos with no audience, just me and you, camera. So for the past couple of weeks we talked about this wonderful plant that gives us fruit, seeds, flowers. You can eat the leaves, we can eat the stems, we can eat the tubers, and we can eat the roots. So we've been through all the other stuff. Today is when we talk about the real McCoy. Most plants, where you get their power pack for most plants is going to be in the roots. And there's several roots I'd like to turn you on to and discuss. So here we go. The roots. First of all, I'd like to examine, well, maybe the sweet potato. A beautiful starch, sweet in flavor. Doesn't have starch enough to bind like a potato would, but definitely wonderful just to roast it off in the oven. And you're going to hear me say a lot of these same terms of roasting stuff off in the oven. And kind of behind the whole idea of teaching this method of this going down the plant from the fruit all the way through the leaves and the stems is that we look back to the leaves, they all cook more or less the same. The fruits, we use the same cooking methods with that. Well, it goes for the same as roots. Roots, you can cook them with the same methods. You can roast them, you can blanch them, you can, some people like to grill sweet potatoes. I don't know. I think going through this with the sweet potatoes and the yams and the rutabagas and the turnips and the beets, more or less the idea of roasting them separately, making sure they're all cut the same size, roasting them separately, and then mixing them together, you can make a nice melody of root vegetables. And if you're getting any CSA boxes these days, you're finding stuff, maybe not so much the sweet potatoes and the yams, but you're certainly finding beets and celeriac and parsnips, carrots. Some of you may be finding Jerusalem artichokes. So I just want to go through these a little bit with you. So when we talk about sweet potato, wonderful vegetable. Just put an edge on my knife. I want to show you one or two things here. But sweet potato is just a nice pale yellow, pale white right here. Again, you can start them out in a saute pan and put them into the oven. You can pan roast them, just have them sauteing in a pan. And then you have like the yam, which is kind of reminiscent of Grandma's sweet potato pie. A lot of people get these ones mixed up. A sweet potato looks like a potato, but it's sweet. A yam is the orange one. And a lot of people down south will refer to a yam as a sweet potato. That's kind of fun. I've got this Garnet Yam here. You can see a little bit, the kind of the same color inside, but different skin tones. It's kind of fun. Again, if we just peel these out and kind of dice them into a nice 3/4 inch dice. Generally, I start out with a pan, sheet pan, put it into an oven, maybe put a little high temperature canola oil on that pan, put it into the oven. And then when that pan is hot with the oil, being very careful, pull it out and then just put my seasoned sweet potatoes, equal size cuts onto this, and they instantly start, you hear that sear, pop them into the oven, and just be vigilant and feel them, keeping in mind that they're hot, and you want to undercook them just a little bit, get some nice golden on them, but undercook them a little bit because that internal temperature is going to carry over, cook them. Super nice stuff. Love sweet potatoes. Some of my favorite things to do with a sweet potato and or a yam is to actually cook them off. In a lot of cases, we'll peel them, we'll steam them, and make them into a puree, and then equal parts regular mashed potatoes and equal parts sweet potato, and it's called a sweet potato. It's kind of a fun way to do it. You don't get that intense sweetness of just the sweet potato and or the yam. So melds really well with a potato dish. So there's those. Boom, boom. I'm going to save those for later. Going to be kind of fun. Again, roasting those whole in an oven, just cutting them in half, just like you would a baked potato. Butter, all the fun things to do. Another root that, boy, growing up, this is one of those fun. This is a turnip, and growing up, I guess my dad had his experimental garden, and when he grew turnips, he would make us eat the turnip greens. And to this day, I'm just like, terrible. But you can eat the greens of turnips. Really fun vegetable. I've grown to love it over the years. But again, just equal cuts, dice, roasted in the oven, salt and pepper, just the simple. You can also make nice purees of this that accent just as a nice little swipe on a plate that goes well with something like beef. Have a nice, just a little swash of sweet turnip puree, and certainly herb it up. Lots of butter. It's a fun one. Turnips are wonderful. A lot of people say, what's the story with the rutabaga? Rutabaga, you'll find this in your CSA boxes. They grow really well here on the Olympic Peninsula. But these two are members of the brassica family. That means that they're related to broccoli and cauliflower and radishes. But the fun one is that someone decided to breed a turnip with a cabbage. And what they got was a rutabaga. So this is the root of the blend of a turnip and a cabbage. Rutabaga, if we cut them open, the turnip, beautiful pear, nice white inside flesh to it. There's a nice, a mellower turnip called a hockerai. They come smaller, about the size of a large radish, if you will, but they're good for eating raw. These ones are a little bit astringent, a little bit of that brassica astringency comes along. And if we just look at the rutabaga in comparison, that rutabaга's got more of that golden hue to it. Again, this is going to be a little bit more intense than your turnip, but if you're into those earthy roots, they really work well. So imagine like a dice of this, a dice of this, a dice of sweet potatoes. You roast them all separately and blend them all together, herb them up with a little bit of olive oil, and you've got this wonderful medley of roast vegetables. The problem is when people dice them all up and put them all into the same pan, just because of their makeup, just because of their fibers, that some will cook faster, slower than others. So your rutabaga is not quite done yet, and your turnips, mush. So it's nice to roast those off separately. It's kind of a fun one. So both in the brassica family, again, these are related to radishes. So that astringency of that horseradishy kind of burny, I guess, is the best thing to do. Best thing to tell you about that, but super fun vegetables in the turnip and the rutabaga. I'm going to play with those a little later too. The next one I want to talk about is like the perfect thing, and this is a golden beet. Of course, we have red beets and we have Chioggia beets, and modern day organic plant breeders are giving us all sorts of crazy beets. Ones that have tie-dye effects when you open them up, but people are really, certainly with a Chioggia beet or a golden or yellow beet, you open them up and people are just like, wow, such a vibrant color. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is a golden beet. Oops, sometimes you get that inner something didn't go quite right with this one, so we just cut through it and get down to the nice parts of it. But nice golden, almost looks like the color of turmeric. But these ones will turn everything yellow. They're sweet, just like a red beet. Red beets, you have to be super careful. Wearing gloves, they'll turn your hands red. But again, equal cadence in the dice. Roast them off separately, and then put them, batch them together. But roasted beets cold make wonderful salad with a vinaigrette. Maybe when Mount Townsend used to have their cheese curds, they used to coincide the beets and the basil, and I'd get Mount Townsend cheese curds, roast off the beets in a nice, probably about a 1/2 inch cadence cut. chiffonade basil with basil oil with those cheese curds, and it was just such a beautiful salad, a beet salad. This is one of my food memories. When I was a kid, just eating pickled beets out of a jar was always a fun one. But beets are super fun, really good for you, high in iron, and of course, they're related to chard. If you can imagine, this is a golden beet. You'd have the golden stem going into the green leaf of a beet greens, and similar to chard. So you can eat, if you have beets with greens, definitely eat the greens. So there's beets. I'll mess with those later. Here's a fun one. This is a Jerusalem artichoke, and the best thing I can say, it's the root of sunflower, because the flower, the plant, and the sunflower that's coming out, these are kind of special because they've got a nutty flavor to them. They're hard to deal with because the skin is a little bit tough, so you have to peel them. Well, not necessarily have to peel them, but if you slice them, you have to contend with that skin of them. I like to peel them and roast them off. They do turn like a grayish color once you roast them off. They will oxidize on you. It's really fun to use these in purees. Again, roast them off and puree them up and add them maybe to something else. Really good for a bisque, a self-thickened soup with Jerusalem artichokes. But these are magic in the fact that a lot of people rely on these as a folk remedy for diabetes. They contain inulin that is not assimilated in the intestine and doesn't cause kind of the glycemic spike as when you're eating a potato. So a lot of diabetics turn to Jerusalem artichoke as a rendition of something similar to a potato. But grow really well in this area, store really well. I know Nash's Organic Produce over in Sequim, this is their thing. They love promoting the Jerusalem artichoke. It's a wonderful vegetable. Again, equal cadence, roast it off, and add it to your mix. Well, this is a fun one. This is a parsnip, by far one of my favorite vegetables. I can remember, 9 years ago, we served parsnips here at the hospital for the first time, and we peeled them and cut them into an equal cadence, and we roasted them so they turned to golden brown, and we had them on the lunch line serving them out, and I'd offer them to people, hey, would you like some parsnips? Oh, I don't want any parsnips. Like, how come? How come you don't want any parsnips? And people are just like, oh, my grandma used to feed me those, and she'd boil them, and they're just terrible. And I double dog dare you to have one of these roasted parsnips, because something magical happens to a parsnip when you roast it. Those natural sugars caramelize and they turn into something similar to candy. In fact, Jay Payne, that used to have the wild coho here years ago in town, offered it up as a dessert, parsnips in a dessert, and I thought that was the craziest thing, but I can see it. Those folks that came through the line saying they didn't like parsnips, and then they had their no thank you bite of a parsnip that was roasted, nice caramelized, came back and said, I'll take more of those. And from that point on, we were any season now, we get parsnips, and we're roasting them. They're great in soups. They're great as that equal balance with mashed potatoes. A parsnip mashed potato is something really nice. One of my favorite dishes of all time, taking a parsnip puree and serving it up with scallops. Parsnips and scallops go really well together. You can shave them and deep fry them, make chips out of them. Really kind of a nice thing. Parsnip pancakes. Oh yeah, for sure. All of these root veg, if you julienne them across a mandolin, accent them with just a little egg and some spice, you can make cakes out of them. So any kind of root vegetable cake is kind of a fun one. So parsnips are fun, and I've always looked at it as like parsnip, parsley. And I think somewhere down the line there was a split, but they're related. They're in the same family as the carrot, so it's kind of a funny one. And then, of course, I wanted to talk a little bit about carrots. One of my favorite vegetables of all time. we tend to keep carrots in-house all the time. Just cut off the ends, scrub them, cut them up, put them in water, keep them in the refrigerator, and that's just the go-to for the kids. It's kind of funny because everybody thinks about a carrot as being this orange color, which, I mean, you think about vegetables or think about food in general, how many foods are orange? Well, you have pumpkins and oranges, of course, but it's funny that the carrot being orange, it wasn't always orange. The first carrots were more whites and yellows and reds and purples, and they weren't this beautiful single root. It was more craggy roots clusters together, and through breeding this happened. But I think they found out, like, about the 1500s or so, an orange carrot hit the scene, and I've always found it amazing the way they could actually pinpoint when the orange carrot hit the scene is in still life paintings that kind of survive the ages, and like, oh, there's a painting of an orange carrot. What year is that? Oh, like 1533. So it's kind of a neat one. But we're going back to some of those heritage breeds of carrots that are all different colors. So a rainbow of colors coming through in carrots. And my goodness, organic farmers take this stuff super seriously. You can have solid purple carrots with a single bead of white in the middle, and they call it like Dark Star, you know, some fun name like that. But when we talk about nutrients in vegetables, and we've always heard eat a rainbow, eat rainbow chard, eat different colored carrots. It's always giving you those different nutrients. Of course, we all know that the orange carrot has beta carotene that's good for your eyes. Maybe a purple carrot has a nutrient that's in the anthocyanin that's better for something else. It's kind of a fun one. I think last week we talked about the purple potato. It's the same thing with a purple carrot. If you add vinegar or acid to a purple carrot, it turns it a vibrant color. So if we're going through the farmer's market or a CSA, you're going to come across colored carrots. And I'm going to show you a little something to do with that. But before I get to that, I'll put those off to the side just for a moment, because I really want to talk about this monster right here. This is one of my favorite vegetables, and I know I say that over and over again. One of my favorite vegetables. I love asparagus. They're all my favorite babies, right? But this one is super special. This is celery root and or celeriac, and it is so flavorful. I kind of think of it as our version of jicama. Jicama is another kind of a root veg. You can shred it and eat it raw in salads. This is an absolute amazing thing. If you can see the stems of the celery right here, so it's more or less the root of celery, but the celery, the stalks of this celery and the leaves are dwarfed. They're not as robust as celery you're used to seeing in the grocery store. It's because I guess there are two farmers that said, well, I like the root of the celery, and the other one said, I like the stems and the leaves of the celery, and that's where they bred. So more attention being put on the root as opposed to more attention being put in those stalks and the leaves. But I tell you what, in Europe, they love this stuff, but they always, in this cragginess of their root structure, are always full of dirt. So you end up losing a bit. But I want to show you, and this is fun for anybody dealing with having to peel something that's got a little bit of resistance to it, because it's hard to peel a celeriac with a peeler. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut both ends of it off like this, and celeriac will oxidize, so you have to be super careful, use it quick. So I cut both ends off, and there I've got, oh, I can already smell it. Oh my goodness, it's so pungent of that celery, everything we love celery for. And when we talk about melding something with mashed potatoes, this is something that's super special with mashed potatoes. So I've cut off the bottom and the top, and this knife cut that I'm going to show you, you can use on cantaloupe, on honeydew melons. It's a way of peeling, and it's a contour cut, and I just want to show you how I do it. And it matters if you're right-handed or left-handed. How many left-handers out there? No left-handers. Right-handers, here we go. So keeping in mind that my knife is a saw, so it's a microscopic saw, and it's sharp, what I would like to do is, if I come right here and I just take this down and kind of contour into the bottom. So when I cut around that, I'm kind of cutting around that edge, right? And so if I'm right-handed, I'm going to turn this clockwise. So then, and I'll just turn to show you, when I make my second cut, I can actually see where that cut is going through there. If I would turn it the other way, I wouldn't be able to see it as well. So if you're right-handed, just turn it clockwise. And you might have to put a little bit of muscle into this, but keep in mind your knife is like a little saw. And just sawing through that ever so nicely, and keeping in mind that even though I soaked this in water and washed it, there's still a good amount of dirt that's all caught up in that root structure at the bottom of it. Then I can just come through here and just chip off, just carve off any of the brown spots that I see. Again, it's going to oxidize, so if you're not going to do something with it right away, you may want to put it in a little bit of acidified water, a little lemon water or so. So there's that. And I'm just going to take my little towel here and clean up a tad bit. And if I were to just let it sit for a little while, we can see it start to oxidize. That's kind of a sad thing that happens. But remember, I was talking about one of these the other week, a mandolin. It's kind of fun for making matchsticks. In this, I just want to make a few matchsticks for a special thing that I like to make today. And again, I want you to be super careful doing this if you're working with one of these. A lot of them come with a guard. That just gets in my way. So I'm a little bit of a daredevil when it comes to using a mandolin. But earlier today, I got bit by one prepping this, so it's kind of fun. Just let me know I'm still human. When I'm using the mandolin, I know that I'm not going to get all the way to it. There's always going to be just a little bit left over because I don't want to get too close for comfort there. So there's that. Just going to, what? I know, it makes me nervous. See? Boy. Most cooks that I know, you look at their hands and their meat hooks. We were talking about that earlier today. Like, yeah, I've never made it as a hand model working in kitchens. So, I know, like, But a beautiful thing you can do with this, if you have what do they call those things? A grater, yeah, or a RoboCoupe that you can, gives you matchsticks all day. These, I mean, if I really whittle them down, I can do something, but I can puree them up, add them to potatoes in a mashed potato. It's kind of fun. But I just want to add these right here. And then I want to go on to tell you what we're going to do. I want to make, remember your grandma used to make this carrot salad? It had raisins in it, and it was like, you didn't know it was like mayonnaise or sour cream or what was in it, but your mom made you eat it, and you're just like, oh, carrot salad. Well, you take that idea, the fig Newton of the idea there, and you use that as your baseline, and think about anything else that you can do with it. It's kind of fun. So I'm going to go along with that. So I've got a carrot here. I'm going to go ahead and julienne some of these carrots up really quick like. And
what's the taste profile of this celery?
oh, here, I'll have to, this is super amazing. Here.
Is it like starchy like a jicama?
Well, I'm going to show you. So Amy's going to try some of this. I gave it to her in a big bowl. let's get a reaction of what celeriac tastes like. Generally, you smell it before you get anything out of it. You smell it?
It smells like celery.
Smells like celery. Yeah, it's good, right? Just raw dog like that, yeah? So there's that. I took the liberty. Let's see what my magic counter has. Ooh! There's a julienne. There's purple, yellow, red, and orange carrots in there. I'm just going to add those to it. And then I'm going to add my celeriac to this as well. So there you go. A nice mixture of matchsticks of celeriac and 5 different colored carrots right there.
Yeah, I would say it's got no real overpowering taste either way.
It is that herbaceous celery kind of flavor that you get. So we have that. I want to start messing with some stuff here right now. And I've got a few cherries that are dried. Yeah, grandma's raisins in the carrot salad. See? You're getting it. And then I got a little bit of dried blueberries. It probably equals out to about a cup of that. And if I just come right here and just run a knife through it, just have them down, run a knife through it. The thing about dried fruit that I need to stress is that in most cases, like with this, I want to make sure I hydrate them back before I put it in the salad. Otherwise, it's just going to be this lug of chewiness in my salad. But I can also glean some flavor from those dried fruit. And so I'm going to hydrate these with a little bit of white balsamic vinegar. So I'm cutting them down, about a cup's worth of cherries and blueberries, organic dried. There's that. Just clean my knife off real quick. Boom. And get those into my bowl like that. See, I use that knife as a nice little scoop. Boom. And then keeping in mind that I know that I want to have some acid in this salad, I'm going to use my favorite vinegar of all time, and that's a little white balsamic. White balsamic. Whoa! I've got my cup of dried fruit. I'm going to add probably about 4 tablespoons, 5 tablespoons. I'm just going to let it sit there for a little while, and the longer you give it, the better it's going to be. They're going to hydrate, but this will work up. If you want to do it super quick, you can put it on a little saucepan and just heat it up, because then it'll hydrate a little bit easier. Another thing I want to add in my mise en place, so these are green onions. I washed them, did my cheerleader pom-pom thing. And a couple of weeks back, we talked about a bias cut. So instead of coming straight across my green onion, I'm just going to turn it off to the side. And again, if I'm pulling my knife through as I'm dropping the heel, it's cutting those. It's actually slicing through it. I can do the same thing with pushing it too. But the more I do that, let's bring it out here. The more I do that, the more I need to steel my knife, get it sharp again. This is kind of scary. If you need a safer way to do it, you can always post your steel, and it's about a 38-degree angle right there, just to bring an edge to it. Anytime I have my knife out, my steel is not that far away. I'll put this back into its holster, and then I can just come right here and just do a bias cut of these green onions. And I'm probably going to get about 1/4 cup. Right there. That feels good. Right like that. And I'm just going to add these to my celeriac carrot mixture, like so. There's that. And then I love parsley. You can imagine that's what it probably looks like, similar, I guess. Yeah? Next time you have parsley, pull it up and see what that root looks like. Very similar to a parsnip. This, I'm just going to do a chiffonade, which is a cross cut. So I'm just going to take this, again, pulling that knife through. As I'm pulling it through, I'm dropping the heel. I want this to be herbed up really nicely. And again, we'll do about half a cup of this parsley because I like parsley. Oh my goodness, especially the Italian parsley. Okay, there's that. Get some more going. There's that right there. Perfect, wonderful. And I'm just going to add, I want some for another dish. I think about it like that. I'll add about, there goes half a cup. This stuff, I'm going to save for my next dish. Oh yeah, 2 dishes tonight, folks. So there's that. Pop you right over here for the time being. And let's get a little cleaned up. My fruit's looking good. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Okay. There's that. All right. Okay. Now, so I've got my veg mixture here. Kind of nice. My carrots, my green onions, my parsley, my celeriac, all right here. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about leaves, and I made a slaw. And I guess this could be considered a carrot slaw, if you will. But one of the first things that I want to do to my carrot slaw is to start breaking it down, start chemically cooking it with a little bit of salt. So I'm going to take maybe 2-3 finger pinches of salt and pop them in there. And I'm just going to start massaging it gently in there. And the more that I do that, the more you can like, hold on a second, my hand's getting a little wet. And what it's doing is it's drawing the moisture out of that, but at the same time it's cooking it. It's making those, searching for the word. But it makes them a little bit easier to chew maybe. Yeah. So I've salted that. I've got my fruit hydrating in a little white balsamic vinegar. And what I'd like to do next is have a bowl. And well, here over in Independence Valley, Washington, we have Flying Cow yogurt, which is just a normal, beautiful yogurt, old-fashioned style yogurt. So I'm just going to come here and think about how much of this yogurt I need to make a nice sauce for this. So I'm going to take probably, I don't know, 2 cups maybe of yogurt, as they say in England, yogurt. It's about 2 cups of yogurt. And then get a little bit of honey, because I like the honey. And I'm going to put, how much honey? Tablespoon? 1 tablespoon? All right, 1 tablespoon of honey. Let's see how good I am. There it was, perfectly calibrated. You see how I did that? Now I got a finger full of honey. And then I got to think about what else do I want to put in this. So I need acid in it. Where am I going to get my acid from? Well, here you go, kids. I want you to check out the color of this juice. This is my white balsamic vinegar that I've had my fruit kind of hydrating in. And if I just put as much as that in there as possible, like so, just get as much as I can out of that fruit. Keeping in mind, not only did the fruit impart flavor to my vinegar, but my vinegar imparted flavor to my fruit. So every little bite of that, you're going to get this pop to the mouth of vinegar. So it's kind of a fun one. Again, I just want to season this up with a little bit of black pepper, maybe a 3-finger pinch of black pepper. I've got salt in my carrot, so I just want to hold off on that. But there are some spice mixes out there called curries that I love. And when we talk about curries, to a main ingredient, what turns it this color is turmeric. Well, turmeric's really good for you for inflammatory, your joints and things like that. And it really goes well with yogurt, really goes well with carrots and celeriac. So I'm going to add about a teaspoon. I don't want it to be a kick to the jaw as far as like curry, a curry salad. I just want to have it a little bit of a feel for that curry. And we were talking back in the kitchen today about this recipe and other things we could do. And I've got candied ginger back in the kitchen, and we were thinking, well, could we add, if we hydrate candied ginger into this recipe? And I'm like, well, of course you could. So just give that a good spin in there, mixing it up ever so nicely. Maybe I should have brought one of my whisks out, but I'm all right. It's going to be fine. I just want to take a little taste just to see where we are with the vinegar, with the sweetness, and with that curry is what I'm really tasting for. Of course, that yogurt's going to add its own little acidity profile to it. I think I want to put a little bit more vinegar into it. So I'm just going to come here and add another tablespoon of vinegar to that and stirring it up ever so nicely. Okay, now we're getting to the point where it's on. I want to mix this thing together. So if I just get all my fruit in, like so. So there's that fruit in the bowl. And I think what I want to do now, since I'm going to get in here with my hands, and since we're not cooking this, I have to be careful. I got clean hands, but anything that's going to be served raw, I want to make sure my hands are covered, or I'm using a utensil like tongs to stir it up with. But I forgot my whisk and I forgot my tongs today, so I'm going to have to make do with my gloves. But it's all good. So in this, I'm going to start out. I can always add more to it, but I'm just going to add probably a cup and a half of that mixture to that. And I'm just going to get in here and just start mixing it up a little bit and realizing, well, it still looks kind of dry, a little dry for me. And I can feel the moisture from those carrots is releasing in there. I want to add a little bit more of that, maybe 2 or 3 more tablespoons. I probably got 4 tablespoons left in the bowl, but oh, that looks nice. Everything is well covered, and the longer I let this sit and macerate, the better off we're going to be. It's just going to really set in. That is the whole idea of like, when you eat chili, chili on the first day isn't the best day to eat chili. It's on the second or third day that it's the best to eat chili, because all those flavors get together and they're hanging out. But I feel like I want to start giving this a taste. All right, here goes. Carrots, celeriac, blueberries, cherries with a little bit of curry and yogurt and honey. Right? And parsley and green onions, right? Okay, here goes. You want to try it? I think I'm going to add a little bit more salt to it. A little bit more. And a tad bit more vinegar. And then, just to shine it up a bit, because I can, add a little bit of olive oil to it. And that makes me feel good. All right. Stirring it up. Again, this in a couple of hours, maybe tomorrow for lunch, is just going to be on fire. It's going to be so nice. You want to try some? All right. I'll get the Amy Yaley test of approval. Yeah, grab a fork. It's going to be better to eat it with that. The curry really doesn't come through. It's just a little on the. I can taste it just on the edge there. Not overpowering with that curry, but when we talk about spice profiles, you can do all sorts of stuff. All right, Miss Yaley. I'm just going to wait, because this is that instant gratification that all chefs get. Instant gratification and instant gratification. Any questions?
No.
No questions.
People wanted it brochureless beforehand.
Oh, yeah. Let me see. Ooh, yeah, instant gratification. Such,
I love the curry.
isn't it fun? Do you get the curry?
That's a nice little
Yeah.
profile.
It's kind of funny. The more you taste something, you get kind of callous to it. So it's good to get different perspectives. We're always throwing things around the kitchen. Here, try this. And getting that, it's that first 2 seconds reaction that you really rely on the most.
The parsley and the curry.
Parsley in the curry. Do you get any of the fruit?
Not yet,
Okay,
maybe.
cool. So there we go. It's a beautiful wintertime salad made with different carrots and celeriac. Do you remember when we were talking about the turnip and the rutabaga? And we were talking about how my dad used to make me eat the turnip greens to a turnip. Well, turnip is in the brassica family. And there's another brassica that's kind of close to a turnip. And it is called a radish. Now, radish are something special. They offer that brassica heat that everybody loves, but in small doses. You don't see someone just chowing down on a bunch of radishes because they're overpowering. In France, they serve it with bread and butter for morning breakfast. There's even a thing called a French breakfast radish, which is long and is half white and half red. It looks kind of cool. All these different varieties of radishes that are kind of like twinging on, is it a turnip? Is a white radish really like a Hockerite turnip? It's kind of hard to tell. But for me, radish has always been, oh, put it on a julienne, get little slices and put it on your salad. But that's about as far as a radish goes in most kitchens. And it was put to me, the whole idea of roasting root vegetables. And I had all these farmers say, I got all these radishes, we don't know what to do with them. And I thought, well, I wonder if you could roast a radish. And so if you cut radishes, and keep in mind, you're going to have different size radishes. This is a quarter of a radish, and this is a whole radish. So you kind of want to get them in the same cadence of size. And then the thing that I like to do is just come here with a little bit of olive oil in a bowl of radishes, right here, like so. And maybe add a little bit of black pepper to my radishes, like so. And then a little bit of kosher salt to my radishes, like so. Keeping in mind that as soon as I add salt to them, it's going to start drawing out the water. So I want to be careful about that. But if I just toss them around, go ahead and get my sheet pan, right? Pop a little bit of high temperature oil, canola oil, onto that sheet pan. Yeah. And I'm just going to get that cold oil, cold pan, pop that pan into the oven. Let it get hot so that oil on that pan becomes a little viscous. It starts to roll around the pan like water. Being very careful, take your torchon like this. Yeah, because it's going to be hot. Pull that pan out of the oven, and let's see if we can see it. Psst. Did you hear it? I'm going to spread them around so that an equal layer. I'm going to put them in like a 400-degree oven for about 15 minutes, being vigilant, keeping them stirred up every 5 minutes or so, because cooking is being vigilant. It's not just like, oh, put it in the oven, put the timer on, now I'm going to go watch TV. It doesn't work that way. You let it roast in the oven, and then that ding goes off, and voila, beautiful roasted radishes. Anybody? See how that happened? Nothing.
The magic of TV.
The magic of TV. So these, where we were talking about that astringency that a raw radish has, that all mellows out. I'm telling you. So once they're roasted, then pull them out. Maybe toss them. Let's put them in a little bowl. We'll have some fun with these radishes for Miss Yaley. Maybe hit them with a little bit more olive oil. Check their seasoning. I just tried one. Probably needs a little bit more salt. Like so. Very nice. A little bit of parsley in there. So nice. And then we'll just give it a light stirring up. And these are super hot still because I pulled them out of my magic countertop here. Now, Miss Yaley, would you like to try one of my radishes?
Sure. You want to add one to my bowl?
I will. Bring it up here. Miss Yaley, everybody. Miss Yaley. Keep your distance, lady. There you go. And now we're going to get the instant, well, maybe not instant gratification. Maybe she's going to be like, nah, these aren't my favorite thing. Let's see what she says, though. Mmm. Ooh. So, again,
You left the little toppings on.
I know I left the little toppies on just to let you know what they were. Otherwise, you'd be like, is this a purple turnip?
I put my glasses on. Yeah, those are good.
Yeah, so roasted radishes, kids. The cool thing about radishes, too, you can eat the greens. They're a little fuzzy, but you can eat the greens. They're a lot like arugula, which I like to call arugula rocket. That's what they call it in England. You like some rocket. Pretty cool, right?
Arugula is my favorite.
I feel like I have parsley in my teeth. Do I? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No,
It feels like I do. Root veg in those CSA boxes. Think outside of the box. Carrots are lovely. Making grandma's renditions of grandma's carrot salad. Taking something like a radish, who no one ever thought of roasting radishes. I don't know why, but they're really good, right? If there's no questions, anybody got any questions? Somebody asked us to get a grocery list, and I had to say, like, well, I'm making this up as I go, kids. This is the way I like to do it. So,
I know. Someone wanted a repeat of the salad, and I just recapped that online. And
cool. Yeah, the salad is the magic one. I'm feeling it today. I'm actually going to save this and try it tomorrow morning. And I'm really thinking that it's all those flavor profiles in there they just get together and meld together, and then they mellow out. So it's kind of a fun one. Eating this, and yogurt is such a good device for coating flavor onto things. So good.
I didn't have a lot of the dried fruit, but then
We're fortunate in Port Townsend, we've got the co-op that we can go to the bulk section and get all sorts of dried fruits. Just that whole idea of hydrating those dried fruits, utilizing the elements you're going to put into it, like the vinegar, it makes good sense. So if there's no more questions, everybody have a good one. Are we going to do something next week, or what are we going to do?
I think don't we have one more? I guess we hit the bottom of the ground.
We're at the bottom of the ground of my perfect plant. If anybody, I'm not that big on baking, and I'm kind of relegated to cooktops, no ovens or any refrigeration or anything. But I'm thinking like I'd like to hit proteins.
What about some quick chicken?
Some quick chicken?
Yeah, like late night chicken ideas that utilize some of these fresh.
Okay, how about this? How about we start investigating chicken? And we'll start it out next week. Yeah, you got stuff in your teeth. We'll start it out next week with just the basics. We'll butcher down some chicken. I'm showing you how to break down a chicken from a whole chicken, breaking it down and utilizing those different parts. And we'll make a dish next week with chicken. And then from there, we'll go on and make a couple of dishes with chicken for the next couple of weeks. So thanks for joining us, everybody at home. I think after a couple of weeks, we've kind of grasped this whole idea of live feed, live stream, nobody in the room trying to, no one heckling me except for Amy. But I think we're getting there. Certainly, if anybody has any questions, any comments, send them to Amy. And
We'll post this on the website tomorrow. And
we're going to post it on the website tomorrow.
I want to race it this time.
And you want to race it this time. But I want everybody to be safe out there. Wear your masks, wash your hands, and just hang in there, okay? Good night, everyone. Now the credits roll and the rock music starts to play. Is that it? All right. Thanks, Amy.